Shalom, that is Zion. Today's opening scripture is going to come from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 16. I'll be reading part of verse 4 through verse 14. And it reads on this wise: As for thy nativity, in the day that thou wast born, thy navel was not cut, neither wast thou washed in water to supple thee. Thou wast not salted at all, nor swaddled at all. None I pity thee, to do any of these unto thee, to have compassion upon thee. But thou wast cast out in the open field, to the loathing of thy person, in the day that thou wast born. And when I passed by thee, and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said unto you, as you lay there in your blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. I have caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field, and thou hast increased and waxen great, and thou art come to excellent ornaments. Thy breasts are fashioned, and thine hair is grown, whereas thou wast naked and bare. Now, when I passed by thee, and looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over thee, and covered thy nakedness, yea, I swear unto thee, and entered into covenant with thee, saith the Most High Elohim. Thou becamest mine. Then washed I thee with water, yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee, and I anointed thee with oil. I clothed thee also with broidered work, and shod thee with badger's skin. And I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk. I decked thee also with ornaments, and I put bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck. And I put a jewel on thy forehead, and earrings in thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thine head. Thus wast thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen, and silk, and broidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour, and honey, and oil. And thou wast exceeding beautiful. And thou didst prosper into a kingdom. And thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty, for it was perfect through my comeliness, which I had put upon thee, saith the Most High Yahuwah. Alright, your daughters of Zion, that was our opening scripture. For today's video, we will be briefly addressing the topic of beauty, so that we, as daughters of light, might depart from all vanity and learn to delight ourselves in the things that are useful and worthy of admiration, such as the diadem and the beautiful robes that Yahuwah once decked us in aforetime, as we have just read. We will learn what those are, and Yahuwah willing, begin to put them on again. Alright? So, having stated that, which is my motive, let us now jump right into this discourse. So, according to scripture, there are two kinds of beauty, ladies. There is a vain beauty that is worthless, and there is also a beauty that is honorable and of great price. So, to explain these two types of beauty, I'm going to begin with the reading of the A&F Apocryphal Book Series, number 1, volume 2, Stromata, book 4. I'll be reading part of chapter 20, titled, A Good Wife. And it speaks on this wise: The happiness of marriage ought never to be estimated by wealth or beauty, but by virtue. Beauty helps no wife with her husband, but virtue has helped many. For every good wife who is attached to her husband knows how to practice sobriety. In this scripture, ladies, it is made clear that the physical beauty of a woman, especially in marriage, is useless and vain. Thus, if a woman desires to beautify herself, it would do her well to beautify herself with virtue and sobriety, because virtue and sobriety is profitable. And if you are unaware of the definition for sobriety and virtue, before you all are the strong concordance and the ancient Hebrew lexicon definitions for both words. And although I would love to go through them both thoroughly, however, for time's sake, I ask that you all allow me to simply sum up the various definitions for each word, and request that on your own time that you guys take a moment to review and to search out the Strong's and Ancient Hebrew Lexicon concordance for yourselves. Alright? So, the summary of the definition for sobriety is this. Sobriety is defined as being zealous, fixed, steadfast in the knowledge of and the keeping of Yahuwah's laws. In other words, sobriety is constancy and consistency in that which is holy. And virtue is defined as the performance of righteousness in deed, word, and inward thought. And we know that righteousness, according to Psalms chapter 119, verse 172, is all of Yahuwah's commandments. Thusly, it can be said to practice virtue is to be a shining and or a light in both deed and word. Okay, ladies, so again, physical beauty is useless. Physical beauty is that vain beauty, especially for a married woman. Thus, if a woman desires to beautify herself, she ought to desire the beauty of sobriety and virtue, because this kind of beauty is honorable and profitable. And according to 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 4 through 6, it is this kind of beauty that our beloved grandmother, Sarah, left behind as a legacy. 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 4 through 6. But let it be the hidden man of the heart, and that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of Yahuwah of great price. For after this manner, in the old time, the holy women also, who trusted in Yahuwah, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands, even as Sarai obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement. ANF, Apocryphal Literature, First Series, Volume 2, Stramata, Book 4. I'll be reading part of Chapter 20, titled A Good Wife. And it reads on this wise. But virtue has helped many, for every good wife who is attached to her husband knows how to practice sobriety. And then, as giving admonitions, he says, first then, this is incumbent on her who is endowed with mind, that even if her husband be ugly, he must appear good-looking. For it is the mind, not the eye, to judge. Alright, so lastly, concerning beauty in this scripture, we see that the idea of vain beauty and profitable beauty applies both to the woman and the man. We also see that if a virtuous woman desires a handsome, profitable husband, it is incumbent, meaning it is a necessary duty and or responsibility of that woman to love and choose for herself a man that is inwardly good looking, meaning one that fears Yahuwah, whose heart is after the heart of Yahuwah. Alright? Because the physical eye of the body is always left wanting, ladies, and it is impossible to be satisfied. Therefore, be wise. If you allow yourself to be taken by a man, let it be done with a sound mind and not with a lustful eye. Alright? Hence, Yahuwah has caused it to be written in the book of Sirach, or as some call it, the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 37, verse 12, this. But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahuwah, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. Put this in your spirit, ladies, okay? Now, before I end this video, I want to quickly address the scripture Isaiah chapter 52, verse 1. Isaiah chapter 52, verse 1 reads on this wise, Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. The reason I want to address the scripture before ending this video is because oftentimes when the scripture is presented to the daughters of Zion, it is interpreted as a command from Yahuwah for us who call ourselves daughters to clothe ourselves in modest clothing, and on that clothing to put fringes, and upon that fringe a border of blue, which is indeed a commandment. However, we must also consider how that If we pay only heed and dress the outward man and neglect to dress the inward man, modest clothing and beautiful fringes with a border of blue will not profit us, even as it did not profit those in the book of Matthew chapter 23, verse 5, who made broad their phylacteries and lengthened the tassels of their garments. You see, the doctrine of Yahuwah is spiritual, and each commandment, whether regarding clothing, food, or otherwise, comes with a spiritual significance. Paraphrasing, as it is written in the First Apocryphal Series, Volume 1, the Epistle of Barnabas, chapter 10, verses 101 through 102, and verse 106 through 108, the beloved Barnabas expresses that of all the people of Yahuwah, David was able to comprehend the knowledge of the three doctrines Moses issued, and spoke of this understanding in like manner when he said, "Blessed is the man who hath not walked in the counsel of the ungodly." That's Psalms chapter 1, verse 1. And again he spoke, "One thing Yahuwah has spoken, two things have I heard." Yea, Yahuwah said one thing to the people, but David always knew that Yahuwah had really said two. That's Psalms chapter 62, verse 11. And again, "For Yahuwah speaketh once, yea twice, yet man perceiveth it not." That's Job chapter 33, verse 14. Put this in your spirits. Every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahuwah is law. And as it is written in Romans chapter 7, verse 14, we know that the law is spiritual. Thus, as our beloved forefather pointed out in his epistle, it is extremely important for us to get an understanding of these laws that goes beyond our physical bellies. We must, with all of our might, try to understand the things that are spiritual from a spiritual standpoint. As I've stated before in a previous video, to examine and to digest and to do what is spiritual from an earthly or fleshly standpoint is to barely scratch at the surface of understanding what Yahuwah has placed before us. So let us go beyond addressing the flesh with this verse, and with all our getting, get an understanding and focus on dressing the inward man. Again, Isaiah chapter 52 verse 1 reads on this wise, "Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and unclean." The garments that Yahuwah is commanding us to put on, and that makes us beautiful to him in this verse, is the very same garment that Job put on in the book of Job chapter 29 verse 14, which reads on this wise, "I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem." It's also the beauty that Isaiah put on in the book of Isaiah chapter 61 verse 10, when he said, "I will greatly rejoice in Yahuwah. My soul shall be joyful in my Elohim. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels." Daughters of Zion, let us deck ourselves and beautify ourselves in the same. The robe of righteousness, the garment of salvation, and the diadem of right judgment. Loving soberness, let us, even as the sinful woman that we read about in a previous video, put off from us vain beauty and wash from our eyes the eyeshadow that blinds those held captive by lust. And let us purchase to ourselves that healing eye salve that Yahushua speaks of and offers in the book of Revelation chapter 3 verse 18. Let us also, even as that same woman, cast from our hands the enticing bracelets of our youth, and put off and cast off from our inward man the tunic of fine linen of whoredom, and resolve to go and attire ourselves in the tunic, the garment of reconciliation, that we may be made perfect after the beauty that Yahuwah spoke of placing upon us in the book of Ezekiel chapter 16. As it is written in the ANF, A Park for Books series, number 1, volume 4, book 7, chapter 33, titled Against Celsus, it is the mind which is made in the image of the Creator. Alright? And with that said, you daughters of Zion, I say Shalom.